What is up and welcome back to Working Hard. Today's guest is someone very special to me. Kate Halfpenny is the founder and designer behind Halfpenny London. She's built a cult following among brides for her unique approach and standout silhouettes. And she's not only an incredible designer, but also a seriously impressive businesswoman. From starting out as a celebrity stylist to launching her own label, building a team, opening her flagship store in London, and becoming one of the most trusted names in bridal. She is also the woman behind my wedding dresses. And today I really wanted to talk about everything from kind of how she built her brand, all the way from being a celebrity stylist, starting out making wedding dresses on the side, and I think a great lesson in just getting started, not necessarily waiting until you have this whole shiny business plan. But I also really wanted to create an episode for brides to be what you should be thinking about for your dresses, when you should be booking in your appointments, how to know when you found the right dress, all of these different questions that I was asking at the beginning of my bridal journey that I wish someone had answered. So we got into the nitty-gritty of all of that with her. Before we get into the episode, please don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you are listening to it on. It makes a huge difference for the podcast, and it means that every Monday when I release an episode to help you improve your life, it's going to be exactly where you want it. Kate Halfpenny, are you currently more working hard or hardly working?
I would love to say I am hardly working, but I'm actually working really hard.
Selling season for the brides.
Season. I've got a whole new team in the business and surrounded by amazing people. So yeah, we are all working hard and yeah, it's exciting.
Ready for a new year of brides.
Yes.
Love to see it. Oh, I'm jealous of all of the brides being able to come in to see you for the first time and be able to try on everything, and such a nice process.
Didn't we have fun?
We had such a good time. I genuinely felt, I was like, I'm going to be so sad. Like, selfishly, like, I enjoyed the process so much that I feel like coming to the end of that, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to think about that's not like this? Because they were so... both of them obviously were from scratch, and so it was so nice to be able to like have the designs unfold and the process unfold and all of that. I miss it already.
There is a funny grief situation that happens between me and my brides, and then I often get messages to say, you know, can we have a debrief? Like I messaged you, I was like, let's go and look at the wedding photos. I want to hear all about it. And it's, I think I need to kind of make a post-wedding club of some sort where we can,
where everyone comes to like show and tell.
Yeah.
Just waving their photos and being like, oh, this is what happened.
There's such a love affair that happens with me and my brides as well. So it is kind of like, I have to kind of send you on your way for your next adventure. And I'm very lucky to have such a privileged job, really, to make people feel the very best versions of themselves.
Well, you do for me. And let's start at the beginning. I would love to hear kind of what got you into doing what you do now at the very beginning. Am I right in thinking that your mother was a knitwear designer?
She was. That was her entrepreneurial kind of side of it. She set up a mohair knitwear company with a friend in I guess it was the 80s. It was kind of very Dennis the Menace, black and red stripes, and really cool. And I'd go there after school to her studio. It was never a kind of a full-time role. It was just a beautiful adventure she went on, and they sold really well, and it was brilliant. So I definitely was inspired by her. I mean, Mum's creativity was amazing. She'd take kind of curtain poles down, wooden ones, and she'd slice them into discs and hand paint them and sell them at craft fairs. Like, there was always that going on. I was never allowed to touch her acrylic paints, which of course I did, and then I'd get told off, or her perfectly sharpened pencils. But I think my grandmother was the one that really taught me to sew on a Singer machine. She used to repair all the overalls for Rolls-Royce, so they didn't throw them away. She'd repair them and then they'd get them back, and her and her friends on their bikes, it was just, you know, they'd cycle to work, and it was just charming. The whole kind of working class factories in Derbyshire is kind of my roots. Yeah,
and such an amazing creative background as well, to have all of that, you know, to see all of that growing up.
Yeah.
And I know that you worked in styling before you started your own thing. I know you styled people like Kate Moss and Rihanna. What was it like actually styling some of those big names?
It was incredible. They were all just amazing to work with. It was a privilege and a joy, and I loved it. It was an amazing career. I kind of fell into that because I studied fashion, and specialised in bridal wear for my degree in the late 90s, and then came to London, were making wedding dresses for my friends, making wedding dresses for friends of friends. But it was just on the side. And then this whole styling career happened after I met this amazing girl. I was an intern at Vivienne Westwood, and I was just like, I don't think working for a fashion brand is for me. Like, I want to be more hands-on. I want to be creating. And it's kind of like, hang on a minute, you have to start somewhere. But I met this amazing girl that said, you should go and meet these amazing people called the New Renaissance that were Royal College graduates. And I just started working with them on like George Michael music videos and crazy stuff like that as their assistant. And then quite quickly I picked up my own clients and have had the most phenomenal career doing music videos and all the big M&S Christmas ads I did for about 10 years, L'Oreal and Rimmel and like mega brands, and dressing these icons, men and women actually. So it was, yeah.
I love that. And I also think that we don't hear enough stories of people who've kind of had different segments of their career, because I think it's so easy to look at someone's career when they've really made it in a space and think, oh, well, that was what they were always going to do and they always did that, or whatever it might be. Whereas you obviously built a background in a different area of the industry before you went into what you do now.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for someone who might be early 20s and thinking about kind of going freelance or starting their own thing? How important would you say it is to build a base and kind of a foundation in the wider industry before you go out and do something on your own?
It is so important. The love and the care and the skills that I was shown and given by the people that mentored me really throughout that, I guess, 20 years really I styled for, with the bridal running on the side. And that informed my business decisions. It created those relationships. It's that kindness that you experience to pay it forward. I couldn't possibly have the business that I have now without the foundations that were laid throughout that career. Like, I think these days we try and create a business in a heartbeat. We try and run before we can walk. We try and, put a product out there without identifying that there's a gap in the market for that product. And, I truly believed in my bridal brand. I changed the bridal landscape when I launched the brand in 2005 with separates. Like, that wasn't happening. People were wearing wedding dresses. They're called wedding dresses for a reason. They were dresses. They were always dresses. And I didn't understand why you couldn't take layers off or add to, go from day to night. I mean, it just made sense to me. So for my degree show, I did little mini dresses with big overskirts that dropped on the runway and they went down to their party dress, and it just made sense.
Yeah, and I think that you're totally right that there's this glamorization now of speed and the need to create something of your own or go freelance or whatever it might be so quickly. And I completely understand why that is. I think there's definitely a link between that and like rising cost of living, and the fact that even if you have a stable salary, that doesn't mean that you necessarily get to be able to afford a house or whatever it might be, or most of the time it definitely does not. I think that, there's definitely a link between those two things, so you might as well have more control over what you do. But at the same time, I do really think that some of this is leading to some shortcutting that's going to kind of cut off your nose in spite of your face. Like, you're trying to get to this next era when perhaps you haven't built the foundations of, as you say, contacts, of skills, of what to do when things go wrong without it literally blowing up your whole career. Like, some of the best advice that I've talked about over and over on this podcast that I was given was that your 20s should be about learning as much as possible on someone else's money, that someone else's money being the company you're working for, and like being able to learn and make mistakes without it all falling back on you when it goes wrong. And I think that it's really powerful to be able to see people like you who've built something that people could assume had been your whole career all along. Whereas actually, as you say, you couldn't have done that without truly building the rest of these foundations.
I mean, the brand is 20 years old this year, which is incredible kind of to reflect on and look back at those 20 years. But in truth, it's the last 10 years where the business has been my sole focus. I had Sylvester when I was 40. He's just turned 10. I've just celebrated my very small birthday. And I know I don't look it. But it's everything that I learned in my 20s and all of the mistakes that I made on other people's money, as you say, but also as hard as I worked then. I just feel that I grafted. I worked 3 jobs. I didn't stop. There was nothing I never had because I worked so goddamn hard every hour of the day, whether it be in a bar, a pizza restaurant, whether it be doing other jobs and different things and interning and working for free and putting myself out there. Now, we pay all our interns. That is not something that I encourage, free labour these days. But there is those opportunities to go and meet people, to talk to people, to see if there are opportunities to shadow them and do things and lean into it. Because we've recruited for many a role in my company through interns, because you see that spark and that dedication and that intuition that people have and that foresight and that forward thinking that you don't necessarily can grab in an interview from a CV or...
Yeah, and I worry that some of that has been taken away by the glamorization of like the end goal on social media. And no one wants to be in the grafting job. No one wants to be in the like foundations building job.
No.
And I worry about that because I do think that there's been this jump to needing the end goal before you've established the foundations. And I think it's great to hear your journey in that way.
I think both of us have celebrated social media and how it's enhanced our business 100-fold. Like it's incredible. Without that, I would not have the global reach that I've had. However, the downside of social media is you can create something and make it look bigger than it is overnight. And also there's something that, in one of the questions of this interview, it was kind of, what is a great piece of advice? And it is just don't compare yourself to other brands and other businesses. And I think social media does make you kind of, it happens to me. It's just about to be bridal market in New York. It's, I'm looking what everyone's doing. It's just literally, it just kind of makes you just think, it's, don't compare yourself, be authentic, do you. Like there's a million of everybody else. Like you can find that unique thing in you and make that special, but work on it, work on the foundations of that big empire, because the stronger they are, the more information and knowledge you have. Like you say, it does help you on those days when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, which it does.
Yeah.
And when did you get the itch to start your own thing then?
To be honest, I've always had my own thing. The itch from being 13 and making jewelry and selling it to people that my dad employed, like I've kind of never had a proper job, in truth. I was a freelance stylist and laying my foundations, assisting lots of different people. So I think I always knew the end goal would be to have my own bridal brand, but it was just, when was the right time?
And what was it about bridal rather than kind of fashion in general?
I was just a dreamer from Derby, a little girl in a room that literally, it was just such a touch if I managed to get a Vogue magazine to pour through and tear sheet and create mood boards. And it wasn't something that I was lucky enough to have every month. And we certainly didn't have internet with me growing up. I'm sounding so ancient.
No, you're not.
But I was a daydreamer. I was exposed to kind of the Princess Diana moment with all of the kind of the theatre around her incredible Emmanuel wedding dress. So I think that definitely has to be a catalyst of kind of, gosh, you just see people's faces on their wedding day. They're just beaming and they're full of joy. And to even have a tiny part of that, what a privilege.
And so what were the first steps to actually making that come true?
It was doing a dress here, a dress there. I'd have a little seamstress, I'd design something and I'd make my friend Jay in Derby's wedding dress and made her evening dress as well. And then, the bridesmaid's dress for my sister's wedding and different things. And it was just kind of designing these little things on the side, and it just grew like a tiny seed into a giant oak tree. And before you know it, like it truly just grew authentically and serendipitously. And yeah, I just was fortunate. I definitely think you have to put yourself out there, like I say, and work hard. But there is elements of luck and fortune that come along the way of meeting the right people. And, I dressed Amelia Fox in 2005 for her red carpet things. And she was getting married to Jared Harris, who was the king out of The Crown. And they were having the wedding. I was dressing both of them, and I made Amelia 2 of her 3 wedding dresses. And her aunt that worked at Vogue was there, and she invited us one day after a fashion show at Claridge's to go and look around Vogue. And it was kind of just this Devil Wears Prada moment. And she said, "Oh, Charlotte Sinclair, one of the journalists, is getting married." And she had this beautiful veil that was her mum's, and she wanted to wear it, but she wanted to modernise it. So I did that for her. And then she put a little credit in the magazine of some accessory that I did. And I didn't have a website or anything. So a friend said, you need to do that. And Amelia said, "Oh, I'll model for you." And I'd got a collection of dresses that I'd used as inspiration and things that I'd designed. So Amelia modelled all of those, and we made a website overnight. And I was in Ubatuba in Brazil on a TV commercial, and the website launched, the Vogue came out, and just gradually it just picked up momentum. It was, we were one of the first 100 businesses to Instagram as well. So then that kind of,
God, that's a good moment.
Yeah.
Well done for doing that.
I know.
Jealous.
Mm.
And I think that, when you talk about how it snowballed and it kind of grew and these moments happened that were catalyst moments, I think one of the biggest things there is they couldn't have been catalyst moments had you overthought starting the business. I think if you'd thought of starting the business as it has to be me leaving my other jobs, doing this, setting out and, setting it all up in the perfect way, I think it's a really important note that actually what you just started doing was started doing it. Like you wanted to make wedding dresses, so you started making wedding dresses, rather than you wanted to have a wedding dress business, so you started the business in the very official way. And I think that's something that holds a lot of people back, is this whole idea of needing to kind of start a business in a very regimented and overthought and overplanned way. And don't get me wrong, I think that you can absolutely do that and execute that very well. But I think that sometimes, most people aren't in the position to do that. You usually need to start it as a side hustle and just start a few things and whatever it might be. So I don't think those opportunities would have been able to even come had you not just been like, right, well, I'm technically doing other things, but I'm also going to start making wedding dresses.
Yeah, it is down to that work ethic again. It was the reason that the company grew is because my husband pushed me out of the door and said, we can't get out of the house on a weekend. I had a beautiful little house in Camden, and the whole ground floor on a Saturday and Sunday were brides. So they'd come back to back. Like, there was no waiting room. I'd schedule them every 2 hours. But of course, that 2 hours, I'd always work the whole 2 hours with my brides, designing and fittings. And the next bride would be outside. So my poor husband couldn't even cross the landing in the open plan house to get to the loo. He'd have to kind of go outside and kind of come round because he was trapped upstairs with back-to-back brides all weekend. And he was like, this is ridiculous. Can you not see what's happening here? And I was kind of like, what? And he was just like, there's clearly an appetite for this. So maybe you should just kind of believe in yourself and go and find a space. So that's when I found the beautiful shop on Woburn Walk.
Oh my God, that was your first space?
That was my first
God, it's the most beautiful, I want to live there.
Me too.
It reminds me of Oliver Twist London. It's very kind of perfect old London.
Yeah, it's in Bridgerton actually. They hired the whole street for
I'm not surprised. It's so Bridgerton and it's so gorgeous. I can't believe that was your first space.
It was on Camden Council's website. So if you are looking for spaces, the council websites are phenomenal. They have amazing spaces, and there was about 10 people after the space, and you had to put a business proposal together, and I just literally wrote a business proposal from my heart. I made up figures. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I mean, thank God for AI now. That would really help.
That would have really got me there,
Yes. But I wrote
I had to use my brain. Damn it.
I used a really empathetic narrative within the business plan. It was like, I don't want to change the fabric of this building. It's perfect. And it was completely derelict downstairs in the basement. I don't know if you ever went downstairs for a fitting, but it's really beautiful down there. And I had to kind of replaster it, damp-proof it, fix it up. And I just did it all for such a bargain. I'm such a businesswoman when it comes to I can't just get big shop fitters in to come and do these things. The new store opposite, I've been we can just do this. Let's just do this, have somebody make these and do it. It's exactly the ethos I've implemented my whole career in renovating houses. I just love that part as well. So getting the shop was just an extension of my home, and I bought things from home, and I basically transferred the ground floor of my house into that shop, and I wanted it to always feel welcoming. You've been there, know it's not.
And it does. And I had some terrible wedding dress experiences, and yours were literally the furthest from that possible.
It was like coming to sit in the living room and have a chat.
Yeah, 100%. And even as in, obviously we ended up collaborating in the end, but at the beginning I'd organically booked an appointment and just wanted to come along and try the dresses. I'd seen them on Instagram, and it was so friendly, lovely. Everything was just, as you say, it was like being in someone's living room and it just being oh, try this on, you'd look great in this.
Yeah,
it was really friendly versus a lot of them feeling like factories.
Yeah,
where you're just a little, you're Next. There to pay a few grand and move on. Yeah, which it absolutely did not feel like that for yours.
The wedding industry has massively changed, particularly over the last 5 years as well, where I feel there are more people like me within the bridal industry with these beautiful spaces, with these interior-led spaces, and I think that's incredible. And I think no longer is bridal a kind of a dirty word for the fashion industry, really. It was never seen to be, you're a wedding dress designer. And I'd be like, I used to be a stylist, I'm a stylist, costume designer. Like,
Right.
I had this other life. And actually, I'm so proud of what I do, because who gets to work with amazing women on a daily basis and create these dream gowns and looks, and to be able to work with people. And my team is exactly the same. I don't see all the brides anymore, but I've got such amazing women in the boutique that just absolutely love their job, and they are also looking for that moment where they find the dream dress. So.
Yeah, well, I was actually you've skipped ahead on my questions, but actually that's a great way to bring up the fact that I think one of the things that really stood out to me was that the culture in Halfpenny doesn't feel like, it's not like, oh, well, if you get an appointment with you get one thing, and if you happen to book an appointment another time when you're not there, it's a completely different thing. Like, the culture is so friendly and nice. Like, every time you walk in, it's like there feels like there's this cohesive culture across the company where this is going to be one of the biggest days of your life. We want to make that special for you. And that was so easily felt every time I was kind of in the boutique. And I know other people who've had Halfpenny dresses, and they've said the exact same, and it's been one of the, a huge reason why they felt kind of so welcome there and everything. How did you get that to carry through the company? Because I think especially when there is a wider bridal industry that's maybe more factory-like, it's probably quite hard to show that you're different.
We are selling an emotional purchase. It's not something that you could say, if you order by Friday, you'll get a free veil. Like, we don't do that. Like, it's just, there isn't initiatives to purchase with us, because if this isn't the dress, if this isn't the one, it's the wrong one. Like, we want you to feel the very best version of yourself on your day. We say it over and over again, and you aren't going to look for a trend-led piece or something that kind of makes you look completely different. What we're looking for is that you find something that makes you just be the best version of you. And that is what the team and I do. There is, of course, there's targets to meet in the boutique and based on the previous years.
It's
a business. Yeah. I mean, I'm the last person that should be put in front of people, because I've given so many things away, and just like, oh my gosh, I just heard the story and how they met. Or I'm like, oh, I really want to make this work. I know it's like double your budget. Girls, make this happen. And they're just like, out. Because it's just, I am just, if it wasn't for incredible business people that I've worked with over the 2 decades, then I wouldn't have a business. When I first started, I priced the dresses based on, I just kind of make it up. I didn't look at kind of how much they cost, how much, and it still frustrates me sometimes when I design something and I'm like, why is that so expensive? And I'm like, Kate,
oh my God, do I know that?
£500 a metre lace, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh.
But it's so pretty,
it's so beautiful. And I want people to be able to have it, but that price they can't. And it's just kind of, this is,
it's just the name of the game, unfortunately, in business.
Yes.
But you carry it very well, and it never feels like a kind of business transaction. That's what I loved so much about it. And obviously, you've made a name in a very saturated space. What do you think set your business aside from this wider industry?
I think the experience that you have at Halfpenny London is something that is what we hear all the time. You did my friend's dress, you did my sister's dress, you did my other sisters, you've done the whole family, and the experience that they've had, that is the thing that brings brides back to us, that beautiful experience. The way that you can make your dress your own. I feel like what we do at Halfpenny is give you the tools to create the look of your dreams, and it's taking elements like when we were first exploring all of the styles that you had dreamed of for your dress, we kind of pulled sleeves from here, or put dresses on back to front, or looked at different things to create that bespoke look, and to work out exactly what that neckline looked like and that drape and where it was. And we can do that in a ready to wear way, where it isn't going down that bespoke journey, because not everyone has the privilege of creating a bespoke gown. So by doing that, we've kind of created add the sleeves, add the overskirt. Really, you become the designer of your own dress. I give you the tools with these beautiful gowns, with the foundations, with the overskirts, with the layers and the lace and the details. And I think that is what's a successful part of the brand as well, that interchangeability. So whether your sister or your friend came and got a dress from us, there is so many other ways and different styles and dresses that you can then create your unique look
Yeah,
to.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you can really see that kind of come through. You've obviously worked with a lot of brides now. I'd love to know what the biggest misconception most brides have when they first go into dress shopping is.
I think they feel that they should know exactly what they want to wear, and they'll come in and say, I definitely don't want a big skirt, or I can't wear a slinky dress. And I think you need to just be open to trying lots of styles on. And I think that's what's great about my store is there is the different silhouettes, so you can really work out, actually, I didn't know how great a strapless dress was going to make me feel, because I can have these, beautiful Mikado puff sleeves on my arms, but it still kind of creates this frame around my décolletage and my face. And like you just see the shock and surprise in people when we encourage them to just step out of their comfort zone and actually put something on that they're just like, oh my gosh, I never imagined in a million years. So even though we're encouraging you to find something that is inherent to your style, it's sometimes there's just those little things that then after your wedding, you then start wearing that style dress all the time, because you've just never been brave enough to try it on your own in a shop. So that's why the Bridal is so unique as well, and why it works in this way of having a stylist to work with you in a boutique, because you need that cheerleader and that encouragement. We have so many brides that come on their own. I mean, you came on your own. You knew you wanted to do this experience to start with and find out who you were, right? It's not necessarily Bridesmaid the movie where you bring 5 friends and you're all sat there going...
In fact, I found that quite overwhelming when I did that, because I felt like I was trying to make sure other people were having a good day as well, rather than it just being like, no, do you know what?
Yeah.
It's the same as like going shopping. I'd much rather have a nice little shop on my own.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need to be this kind of highly pressurized experience.
Yeah. I think what happens in those scenarios where somebody brings lots of guests, or it's a beautiful experience, but inevitably the bride then emails saying, can I come back and try those on?
Yeah.
That, like, the noise can just be so much sometimes. And often if I'm leading the appointment, and I actually think I'm the only person in the business that can do this, but I'm kind of like, everyone, don't say a thing until our gorgeous bride has actually worked out how she feels in it. And when she asks for your opinion, like...
then you give it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cautious. Like, I had a bride that came that I arranged to meet in the boutique on Tuesday. She'd been and seen my team. She just couldn't make a decision. My mum liked this dresses. My friend said this one. And then I was like, and I'm so torn. And I said, just come. She brought one friend, and I said to the friend, because she said, well, she liked me. And she said, I was kind of going along with what everyone was like. She was like, you looked amazing in everything. And I was like, well, let's see how you feel. So we put her 3 favourites on, and it was obvious the minute she came out, I knew exactly which one that she tried on. But I've often talked about this in magazine articles, where it can just be a slight rollback of the shoulder, or a kind of just a different way that the bride breathes. It isn't necessarily all tears and emotions. It's just a silent kind of confidence that happens. And there's a misconception. You don't have to start hysterically crying when you find the one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And how early should brides start thinking about their dress?
It really isn't a problem to do it 18 months before your wedding. Lots of people think that's too soon, too far away from the actual date, and too soon to start looking once you found your venue. But the good thing about finding a wedding dress in plenty of time is all of the things that come with the style of that dress that inform your decision on the flowers, the style of the wedding. Brides sometimes come and they're like, this is the venue, I want to find a dress for that. And then it changes. So it's just that there's lots of jigsaw pieces that go together. So once the dress is kind of found, you can find the shoes and the accessories and know the whole story of the day.
But you don't want to leave it too late, right?
You definitely don't want to leave it too late. Like, anything under 6 months, you will, I mean, even some stores, anything under 8 to 12 months, you'll incur priority rush fees. And nobody ever quite understands why. But if you think there's fabrics to be ordered, and if there's a lace involved, that to have that lace made can sometimes take us 12 weeks to order that, and then the shipping of that lace to come from France, or the Italian crepes that we use, they have to be made. So we don't always hold stock of some of our fancy fabrics, and we schedule how we make everything. So yeah, anything under 6 months, and it can incur kind of us being charged lots of money to get those fabrics made. And
For someone who goes into the bridal process kind of not knowing at all what they want or what they think they'll suit or what their kind of bridal style is, how would you recommend that they start to find that?
We often say look into your own wardrobe and see what your favourite dress is. Like, what made you feel amazing when you went to somebody else's wedding? It doesn't have to be it could be a skirt and top or a particular neckline. And so start at home and start thinking that way, but then go to stores and try on lots of styles and or brands that you admire. Go and book an appointment with them. But what I will say is don't go to too many places. Like, I know you...
Yes, I went to a lot of places. The rumours are true.
Yes. And actually it becomes overwhelming to some degree. It can work in two ways. It really refined the design that you wanted. So when we finally started, you had a very clear vision of the two dresses that you wanted. However, I get lots of brides and they are so overwhelmed, and the commitment issue to choosing the dress has been blown like off the scale. They're just like, I love this and I love this, and they're flicking through hundreds of pictures on their phone. I try and encourage people when their guests are there, photographing from every angle. I'm like, these are not going to be good pictures because you're sat down in the chair and you're just snapping away, and they'll be kind of like half eyes shut. And if you want to take a picture, just stop. Let's get a front, back, and side, and make it beautiful pictures. But don't choose your wedding dress from a photo in your phone. Like, I've had brides come to me and say, I thought I'd found the one. It was, but then I looked at the pictures last night and I thought it didn't make me look great. And it's like, that was a sample. It's not your size.
Yeah.
It's not the best angle, the picture that your mum took from kind of the other side of the shop. Like, go back and try that dress on. Like, I will always encourage you to go back to that brand that you loved that dress at. I don't want you trying to find something that made you feel as good as that made you feel in that moment, if that was the one. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's such a interesting process because it feels like such high pressure, and you do often feel like you need to have that big moment where you kind of burst into tears or whatever it might be. And I think that for lots of people it's about being like, do you know what, no, I feel really good in this dress. Like, it's not that it's giant and it's not that it's like this big moment. It's like, no, this, I feel really good in this and this feels me. And I think that one of the things that I kept speaking to you about was that I had this struggle because I kind of kept yo-yoing between the fact that the dresses that I suited were not my personal style. So they looked best on my body type, but they weren't my personal style. So I felt like I was in like costume, and that felt really hard because I'd constantly go into the shops, and the ones that looked good on me, everyone would be like, this, like, this really enhances your figure. This, looks amazing. And I'd be like, I don't feel like myself in this. I feel like I'm in a school play. And it's hard to get like a balance between those things.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly what we managed to do with your dresses, because you had, you wanted that sculpturiness, but it was always like, we're not going to turn this into kind of something that is in the V&A right now, in the Marie Antoinette exhibition. It has to feel that it's sculpted to you and created for you and your body. And it was a really fun adventure to go on with you, to kind of work out actually how far we made that kind of extended silhouette and the drape on the neck. You had a defined idea, the corset and the foundations that we put inside those dresses. You knew you wanted that defined waist and how you wanted it to look. And you had the privilege of being able to create exactly the version of the dress that you wanted, but working for the exact figure and body that you had. So,
well, thanks to you.
Wow.
So asking then, honestly, what was the hardest part of my dress to get right?
I think the hardest part was to get the cups of your dress to make you feel exactly as you wanted your bust to feel, because we're not just sticking a bra in here. We're creating kind of a couture piece of lingerie that sits inside that dress. So when I did the first dress, we did it quite sort of seamless without cups, and you were like, no, it's not kind of sitting in exactly. So just nailing those foundations to be utterly perfect. It's like our metaphor for our business. The foundation is so important within any dress. Like, it's the same.
But that's what made it so special for me because, for example, the second dress was quite a slinky dress and I felt like I definitely couldn't wear a slinky dress because I've got a big bust, and so if that's going to be flying all over the place, especially for the dancing part of the evening, then I was like, I'm not going to feel good in this, or all the photos I'm going to be kind of flying all over the place, whereas you were able to make it look slinky whilst actually I was cemented into that dress.
Yeah.
Like we had actual chicken fillets in that dress to make my bust sit how I wanted it to, whilst it also felt like the dress was floaty and slinky. It was such an art. I'm never going to look that good in a cowl neck again.
And oh my gosh, I do not believe
No,
you.
it's true. I'm going to have to put the corseted underneath.
Oh, I loved the waspy that we created as well. Often as well in a slinky dress, people think, oh, I can't define my waist. And especially if there's not like a waist seam that you can really nip in. So that waspy, which was the little over corset on your evening dress, was just like a piece of art. I loved that. Yeah.
No, people loved that one, the
yeah,
second
and the
one.
embroideries.
Yeah. Do you know when a dress is finished, or how do you know when to kind of stop tweaking?
I mean, you could tweak and tweak and tweak. You really could, but you have to think, you don't want to keep tweaking that beautiful fabric because you don't want it to scar and you don't want it to mark. And actually, eventually, there's just a silent, I know, we're done. But sometimes, brides project so much on their wedding dress that they don't want, the confidence is a real thing that sometimes they want you to keep altering it, and the closer they get to the wedding, body shapes change and brides stress and they lose weight, and then they want it altered again and again. And so you really, if you are of a body that will change shapes with stress nearer your wedding, then I would highly recommend you leave your alterations to as close to your wedding as possible.
Yeah, we had mine like 2 weeks before at the end.
Yeah, because you don't want to have made all of those alterations and then lost more weight and then feel that the dress isn't fitting you perfectly. So
Is it more fun or more pressure designing for someone you know?
Is it more fun? Do you know, I think there's more pressure for people that I know. Yeah. Because there's an element of them that I already know, and there's an element of my perception of what will be wonderful and which will suit them. And the thing about our job is we have to listen a lot. And I think that's what makes the Halfpenny Stylist unique, is we listen to what you're saying. We notice your reactions when we put you in certain things, and we make suggestions. And so, yeah, I definitely think it's harder when you've got a perception of what you'd like to put somebody in, and yet you have to step back and listen.
And when say if you were a bride-to-be now and you've just kind of got engaged, or you're just starting thinking about your dress, you love certain things, but you're worried that you might love them because they're currently trend-led. How would you advise someone between finding something that reflects a trend that they're loving at the moment versus wanting it to be something that's kind of timeless and they're going to look back on in 10 years and still think, oh, I looked amazing?
That's an interesting question, because looking back on your wedding 10 years later, you have to think, I got married in 2025. This is what was happening then. Like, I love the fact that you can look back at the decades and you can see what was happening around that time. You look back at the 80s with all those giant mutton sleeves and lots of doupions and taffeta fabrics. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I understand that there's a timeless elegance to all of my collection, whether you have a halter neck or, there's a huge trend for off the shoulder or the whole backless thing. Those will always happen, but they happen throughout the decades. So I just think you just need to find something that you truly feel incredible in, and you won't even think about the trend, because when you look at those pictures, you will remember how amazing you felt and what a brilliant day it was.
Yeah, and I think that was really the difference for me, when I felt like my dress was me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what anyone else thinks about my dress. Like, thankfully people loved it. But genuinely I don't, because it was kind of, for me, that was so me. Like, it felt like it was me. It felt like it was kind of modern and traditional, and those things that felt, I don't know. Like, I would be so surprised if I'd look back at any point and be like, oh no, I don't like this because of this. Because even if something's a trend, or even if something's like coming through more at the moment, if it feels like you and it feels like you're yourself, then I think that's kind of just what you should be aiming for.
I've just celebrated my 13th wedding anniversary, and there is no way I would wear anything else other than the dress that I wore that day. I'd wear it exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I really love that. And I'd love to know what one thing you think lots of brides stress about that they shouldn't stress about.
I mean, lots of people stress about making other people happy on their wedding day. And actually, my advice to brides is this day is for you and your husband, of course. You want to give your guests a really brilliant time. Just do what you want to do. Don't be influenced by trends, what's happening out there. Don't try and turn your wedding into a photo shoot either. There's so much pressure these days with really like high-end photography on weddings and that really stylized finish. And if that's not you, be authentic to yourself. Don't stress about trying to make the day look like an editorial shoot.
That was actually one of my favorite things that we did as well, is that we specifically didn't do photos. Like, we didn't do photo time, basically. And of course, like, we got lots of photos and we got lots of content. That part is not lost on me. But there was never kind of half an hour here, half an hour there, doing this, especially because it's so close to my job. I was like, that's going to feel like we are working. Whereas it was, we made sure even that the photographer knew that we didn't want that to be the case. And so it was constantly like, anytime he was grabbing us for a photo, it would be genuinely 5 shots, off you go. And I think that knowing thinking about your wedding day and thinking what would make this an amazing day versus what would not make this an amazing day, I think is really important. And one of the things that I identified was the photos thing. And also, I don't want to be thinking about if everyone else is having a good time.
No.
And I don't want to be making sure that I've spent enough time with people because they've travelled out to France. So I, for example, made sure that on the welcome dinner, I went round and spoke to everyone because I was like, I might not see you for the rest of the weekend because I'm going to be trying to enjoy getting married rather than trying to make sure I've done all my hellos. And I think that for me was one of the best pieces of advice, was just like, really think, like sit down and think, write down 2 columns, like what would make the wedding day perfect and what would not ruin the wedding day for me, but what would really take away from it. And I think that got us a lot closer to feeling like we were genuinely having a great time rather than feeling like we were part of some big performance.
There's amazing ways that you can have a wedding that doesn't have to cost you the earth. And I think the whole perception around weddings, and I think it's got slightly distorted in the performance around the wedding. And for my wedding, we hired a holiday kind of let with a barn and lots of cottages, and we just took over the whole place, but everyone booked and paid for their own accommodation. And instead of having a paid bar, we said to everyone, we told everyone what to bring. You bring a litre of gin, you bring a litre of vodka. I mean, literally, we carried on literally drinking all of the wedding booze. There was just too much. So then we got barman and soft drinks and all of the wine and the champagne for the wedding. But it just meant that everyone had, and if somebody particularly liked something, they bought that and it all just went in the bar. But there were people there to make the cocktails, people there to help. So there's so many gorgeous ways in which, people these days, they would rather be part of your incredible day and like when you go for a big birthday dinner, you do these big set menus and everyone kind of pays for their meal and they're there to celebrate you. Like, you can do that for weddings too. Like, you can just have that weekend away with friends and you just so happen to have an amazing celebration of your love together, or, it's...
Yeah, and don't let it be your life savings just because it feels like people are doing that.
And it's so worrying. People are putting their whole wedding on, credit cards and things, and it's not, and it doesn't reward them in the same way if something authentic, like authenticity throughout everything is just key.
Well, that was my biggest fear, is that going into the wedding, I kind of thought, I was like, the last thing I want is for on the Monday, the day after it finishes, to be like, oh my God, that's done, but in a kind of not just wedding bluesy way, like, oh no, that's over, being like, that's done and that money's gone. And I feel like, as in, I never wanted it to be to an extent where I would feel upset by it being done because it was, everything was just gone in that weekend. And I think, I completely appreciate that I'm in a very privileged position. And so, that's going to be an easier decision to make for me. But when I originally went for meetings with wedding planners, the amount they were quoting for kind of what we wanted to do, bearing in mind we were like, we don't need fireworks, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. All we want is everyone in the same place for 3 days and kind of, you know, these various types of things. It was just so crazy because the industry has got so crazy and so performative. And I understand completely if people want to do X, Y, and Z, but
if
no
that
one
makes
should
you
feel
happy,
pressured. Yeah.
If that makes you happy and that is truly what you want to do, go for it. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not. I love that. I celebrate that. I love hearing some of the stories of the weddings that my brides are having. And then after their emails and their pictures, and they're like, it was everything I ever dreamed of. That is all you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't kind of put yourself in eternal debt forever.
No. Not worth it. You can take your halfpenny dress and go and elope.
Exactly. We have lots of eloping brides.
I love that. And are you seeing any 2025 wedding or kind of bridal trends that you're loving at the moment?
I mean, there's lots more texture coming back into the fabrics, which is exciting.
You know, I love a bit of texture.
Yeah, it had gone very clean and sleek for a while, and I definitely think there's tons of lace coming back. Mm-hmm. I always imagined I'd get married in head-to-toe lace, and I didn't. Mine was super simple and a graphic kind of silhouette and fabric. But it's it's exciting to see the textures. My new collection launches literally in a few days, and
so exciting.
And inspired by the embroideries I created for you, we've created these really beautiful echinacea flowers, which have the symbol of kind of wellness and all of the messaging around that, but they're embroidered onto tops of guipure, like a beautiful kind of heavy lace. So there's beautiful suits and yummy, delicious fabrics and texture and yum.
And if you could design a wedding dress for anyone, who would it be?
I mean, I loved working with Rihanna. I just think she's amazing. So I'd love to create her a new epic gown. I did her a gown for the Brit Awards, and also she wore some more of my items for The Only Girl in the World and different things. But I'd love to work with her again. But Billie Eilish?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'd absolutely love to, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I always end by asking the same question, and I'd love to know from you. I know you alluded to it earlier, but what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Be authentic. Be true to yourself. And comparison is the thief of all joy.
I like those. You've got a little trio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really like that. Powerful.
Yeah. And always hire people you think you can't afford, because they will help you reach for those stars.
That's a good one too. I think that's a really good one. I think that it's easy to be terrified of certain types of growth because it always just feels a little bit too close to teetering over the edge.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to trust your gut, but also at the same time, you've got to invest in big things to be able to get to big things.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard being a founder, you know. It can be lonely at times, but you just have to surround yourself with people that are better than you at the things that will help you grow.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Oh, well, thank you so much. And the
My
biggest
pleasure.
thank you of all to designing the best thing I've ever put on my body.
Oh,
or the
thank
two
you
best
for
things I've ever
having
put on my
me.
body. Honestly, I obviously did a big soppy Instagram post, which I meant every single word of how incredible the whole process was, but also just how amazing you and your team kind of made me feel, not just throughout the whole process, but like the end dress was just so, I'd had this vision, but it was even better. And
Good.
you made it everything that I would have wanted, with so many ideas that I never would have thought of. It was just perfect.
Our pleasure.